Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to make a nice simple bird box, nesting box, out of this bit of fencing wood we had lying around and some 4-inch wide polypipe. These are what's kind of stuff you get on for drainage on building sites and stuff. I'll just cut that off a nice length like so. One of my neighbours literally just dropped off for me, so we're going to use that. I have used it on a previous one. I made another nesting box with Grumpy, one of the dwarfs from Snow White. But this one, just a little different design on that one. Now for me, obviously we're going to cut off a top and a bottom and literally just route out this middle section here. So we can slot that in there, and that will be a base, and basically identical, which will be the top. And then we're going to cut out some smaller sections. See how they go on. If it looks stupid, we'll leave it alone. We've done a smaller circle there to fit on top of the roof, as we're going to call it. And then a smaller one to sit on top of that, to give it kind of a coning effect. And then I actually found a little doorknob there, a drawer, should I say. And we will sit that on the final one at the end. And we'll see what it looks like. If we're not too happy, we can do away with these two smaller ones and just have a nice flat roof at top and the bottom. Now obviously we need that to fit in, so you can either put that on there and literally just draw around that. That will give you your section there. For me personally, I just went for the centre of the 6-inch piece of wood. So we went up 3 inches. And I got myself a little ruler. You can use a compass or whatever you want. And I just made holes in there to fit where I wanted to. And you can actually just slot that in there into the centre of that piece. Just get that hole in there nicely, he says, hopefully. Just a minute, let's find it. There we go. We'll pop that in there like so, and that will hold that in place nicely. And we just put our little pencil in there, and that just lets you do a full circle. Just get my hand out of the way. That will make a nice full circle there for that inner one, and exactly the same. We've just got away with it. Just get in there for the outer circle, and I'll keep this ruler. And should I want to make one further down the line, there's no need to start drawing it out and drawing around things. We can just go straight to our little template ruler, and we've marked off the ones that we need. And I've got 3 or 4 different holes down there for different projects. So basically that's what we're going to use today. Take 5 minutes to sand your wood down. It comes up really nice, and we'll either put some raw linseed oil on at the end or some kind of paint. But for now we're just going to route out these 2 centre pieces, maybe about 3mm, quarter of an inch, something like that. The pipe itself is 5 inches and a half, so I think if we go 5.5 inches, that, so if we do quarter of an inch in here, quarter in here, that leaves us 5 inches to play with. For the hole itself, do a little bit of research. Certain birds, I'm going for the blue tit here in the UK, and a sparrow maybe, they all have different size holes, believe it or not. Blue tit, they recommend 25mm, a sparrow's 32, and bigger and bigger. And obviously because the nesting box will be that way, it's not going to be for one of your bigger birds. And I found out the centre of this bit of electrical tape is literally just over 1 inch, and that's going to be near enough for me. So towards the end we'll put that on there, and you draw around that, and that will be like our entrance to the little bird box. Okay, so far good. And then once we've routed out those 2 areas, like I say, we'll get this scroll saw and literally just cut these out with the other 2 bits. You could use a bandsaw or whatever. So route it out first. Normally I would use CNC bits and end milling bit, because it's just one big piece and it doesn't have to be too fantastic. I know the birds aren't going to complain about it. I'm just going to use these straight flush bits. They come in different sizes. I won't go in with a big chunky thing like that. That would just be a little bit too powerful. So a nice one with double-sided there. We'll just go straight in at 1/4 inch and just route out these 2 bits first. And then when we come back, we'll go on to the cutting side of things. Now to hold it all together, that there's a base. That will be the lid, obviously goes on top. I'm just going to cut out 2 wooden strips from the same wood, and there will be 2 little supports, one on that side and one on that side. And then we'll have a little bracket underneath to hold it all in place. But let's route it out first, and we'll see what I'm trying to explain as we go along. Right, you can see from that we've got our straight flush bit into the router there. They have a 1/4 inch shaft on them, so there's no adapter collet to be needed, and it's roughly about 1/4 inch. I always like to do a bit of a sample on a bit of scrap You can just see that there we go. And I personally think that's maybe about 3-4 millimeters. And that's plenty deep enough for our polypipe to fit in, obviously when we've done the big one. So we'll route out these 2 sections first, and then we'll get onto this scroll saw and basically cut all 1, 2, 3, 4 circles out. Not forgetting our 2 supports, which we just managed to squeeze in on the end there to hold it all together. Okay, let's route this one out quickly. Nothing too fantastic today. Nice simple bird boxes, basically using up a bit of fencing wood and a bit of polypipe left over from a previous project. Right, there's our first one routed out, and obviously this will be the base, and I'm going to do exactly the same for the actual lid of the bird box. So we've gone around with our little router there. It's near enough what we want should I say, and it's a nice tight fit. It'll make it a little bit easier, so a little sanding drum on a nice flexi cable. I'll just quickly do that, a quick skim round. And we can play with that for another couple of minutes, just to make it as tight as we can get it, should I say. And hopefully that will fit in there like so. So that's in there nice and tight, and that will be our little bird box secured to the bottom once we have our uprights in. You'll see those in a minute once we cut them out. So off camera, I'll basically just do exactly the same for the lid. Right, that's our lid and the base both routed out, and that just fits in there nice enough and snug enough to make nice and airtight for hopefully the little birds to go inside and do whatever they do. So that's it for the router. Nothing fantastic today. Next stage for me now is simply to cut out the base, the lid, and the other circle to go on top, and the other circle to go on top of that. And there's these 2 side these 2 side support sections, which I'll show you in a minute. They're going to go on there and go either side of the poly pipe. You'll see in a minute once I cut it all out. For me, I'm going to use a scroll saw. Like I say, you could get away with a bandsaw on this, no problem. And then we'll sand it all down, make it all nice and round. And I'm going to round off the edges slightly, just so it's not as sharp. For me today, I like to use spiral blades. Pegas number 5 for me. They cut in any direction. So if you're using really big projects, you could set off there and literally just move your wood like so. I like spiral blades. They are not for everybody. Another blade option for the scroll saw is a pin blade. Basically a pin at either side. They could use this on this one, no problem. Nothing too complicated. Your blades want to feel smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. That way you know you've got them in the right way. And they just simply just clip onto your more cheaper saws, shall we call it. And for the fancy ones, they also do a pinless blade. No pins at all. Fantastic for detailed work. If you're doing a close-up face or an animal of some description, you want to drill a pilot hole, you've got to get really handy. These will just pop in nicely. You might want to take that little circle out there, that knot. They would fit in. Where if you drill a pilot hole and pin blades, they won't fit in because the pins will be in the way. So it's a personal choice. For me, spiral's the way to go. So I quickly just cut out these 1, 2, 3, 4 circles and the 2 supporting arms at either side. We'll do that next. Right, that's all our bits cut out on the scroll saw. Now I'm no scroller by any stretch, but it's near enough for what we want, and I can't see any little birds complaining about the mess of the place. We'll go around with a belt sander, give them all a nice sanding down. Like I say, we're literally just going to curve these edges off slightly so they're not too pointed. We've got all our little bits done, and we've got our little two supporting walls at the side. Now the idea with these is we will place this as the base. As you can see from that will be the base of the bird box once we've actually tidied it all up. Remember, that will fit on there like so. That just fits in there nicely. Now we will have these two pieces of wood. One will go at one side, get the nice straight edge. One will fit up there eventually, and obviously the other one with a straight side. It doesn't have to be too perfect. I'm quite happy to go in there with a sanding drum and just make a bit of a design on that. I'm not really too bothered. And we will have one on the opposite side like so. And I'll literally use 4 screws. There will be 2 coming underneath from the bottom, and 2 will go in the top. So we will drill through the lid there, and hopefully into that piece of wood there. So when that fits on there like so, that will be our finished bird box. And then we put our little roof piece on there just to finish it off, and then we'll pop that one on as well. And while we'll use a little drawer knob there that we found, and we'll probably pop that on top as well. So we're going a little bit crazy today, and hopefully without it falling apart, that will be all set in. And then when you come to clean it out, you can literally just remove the 2 screws from the top, and that lid will come off, and you can get in there and sort out whatever you need to do. And obviously pop that back on, line up your screw holes, and fasten that all down with those pieces of wood on the side. You'll see when it all comes together, but for now we're just going to go around, give it all a nice sanding down, get this all rounded off, and then when we come back, we're ready for putting some oil on or painting it. And while we're on, let's not forget about the hole there. We'll sort that out in a minute. Let's tidy up this wood first. Right, we've done all the sanding down, and we've rounded off those edges. You can go forever more. You could really slope that down if you wanted to. I'm not 100% about this little one on the top. I think you might better like that, but we've mentioned it in the video, so we're going to use it no matter what. So we'll pop that one on top there. That is basically the shape of our bird box minus the hole. Now if you remember originally, this is just a nice size, just over 1 inch there. And that was going to be my little circle, and I will draw inside that with a pencil. And I've managed to find myself one of these wide drill ends, number 32 this one, and believe it or not, that is just a perfect fit for that. So some little projects just work out. I've used this on wood, never on plastic, but hopefully we can do our centre hole there for the bird entrance in a minute. But just before that, you can see our general shape. Now what's left on this, these ought to glue down and screw down eventually. We're not too concerned about that at this moment in time. But you can see from that, I've already done 2 of these side walls already. And that was just a simple case of putting it on. We marked it off with a pencil, like I've done on here. Our little centre hole for the drill to go in. And I've drilled right through. And then we did a little countersunk there with a carving bit on the end of it. Dremel like so, just to round it off, and that makes the screws fit flush, and they're nice and solid now. So there's our 2 sides done. We've also got to do the same here again, and then we'll turn it over and do our little centerpieces, and hopefully that will all screw in there nicely like so. Obviously once we've got our little piece inside, so we'll do the top piece first, and then we'll go on to making the hole for the little bird to fly into. Right, so far so good. You can see we've made our hole there nicely, just a little bit small, so I roughly went around with a sanding drum just to make it a little bit wider. Now the lid itself, I didn't show you that, but basically a little bit of dab of glue under each one, and underneath we had 2 screws in there, and that held that middle section solid, and it is solid. Then I had 2 screws in that one, set at a different angle to hold that one in place, and on that one I had the 1 screw through the middle, and that's enough just to screw on our little knob thing there. And I'll dab a little bit of glue on there just to make sure it's all nicely secure. We've got our base done. Obviously that's all fit in there nicely. That will go on there eventually like so to make our finished box. That will be our finished item, something like that, as you can see from that. Before that though, I do want to paint this one. I'm going to go with some black paint, just painter's touch. It's acrylic base, so it's safe for birds. Certain oils you've got to watch out. Raw linseed oil, that'd be safe for birds. So do a little bit of research. So I want to paint the full thing in this black. I just think it nice, stand up nice against the grey. And you could paint that. You could paint that polypipe just as easy. I'm going to leave that as it is. So instead of boring you by just basically just painting, I will paint all this like so. And once it's all nicely dry, we'll come back and pop our little nesting box in. Now for hanging purposes, I've actually just found myself a bracket like so. That will be perfect for popping underneath there. I've already done my holes. I will literally just screw that underneath like so. And that will leave two nice big screws there to fasten to the fence post. You'll see near the time. And everything's in black, so everything's going to blend in. The screws, the brackets and everything else. So I'll quickly paint this. And when we come back, we'll put it all together. And hopefully we'll go and find a space for it. Right, that's all nicely painted. I've slotted the lid back on again and lined it up with the screw holes. So it's just a simple case of tightening that up. And the one on the other side. Remember, that's the way you can use it. When you want to come to clean it out, just remove those 2 screws. And that lid will pop off nicely. Or either way, if you prefer, you could remove the 2 screws underneath and take the base out. So that's all nicely on there now. We've painted our top. Everything's nicely secure. So hopefully we're getting somewhere near what's going to be our little birdhouse. So it's just a case of putting the bracket on underneath, remember. I've already done my little holes for that. So it's just a simple case of lining them up. Like so. Found 2 holes here. We're going to just pop our 2 screws in there. And then when I come back in a minute, we'll be ready to pop it on the fence. Right, that's it. We've got our bracket on underneath. That's plenty for this. There's another 2 screws to go in there, but personally, them 2 will hold it in place. And it's a good solid bracket. And that's going to be plenty enough there to hold that in place. Being what fence you put it on, or tree, or anything like so. And that's it. This little project is finished. Now I've done 4 different types of bird nesting boxes in my garden. I've not had one bird in one of those, I'll be honest with you. But I've made them for other people. And they get birds coming back year after year. So it's just a look of the draw. So I'll keep making these different types until eventually we will get a little bird nesting in there. So there we have it. It measures in at 5 inches roughly for the bird box itself. The whole piece is 10 inches high and about 6 inches across. With fencing wood and a bit of polypiping. And that's it. This little project is more or less finished. And like I said previously, if you want to clear it out, you can remove those 2 screws. That'll all come off in one piece. Or you could remove the screws from underneath and do exactly the same that way. Do a little bit of research as regards to the size of your hole you want. Some say you want ventilation and all that. You know, I don't know. Just they go a little bit crazy sometimes. It's bird safe paint and there's bird safe oils out there. My birds aren't known for coming in and taking chunks of wood out the side of things, but you never know. Some gardens you might have them. So, and there we have it. Just nice little fun, quick bird box. We're going to find a space in the garden. Thank you very much for watching. Just give it a go and just enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much.